Megan's missing again.
And be missing for an
She
hour.
might be on vacation.
I don't know. I came here for Megan, so I feel gypped. I'm going to say that on there. Oh, yeah, we are recording.
No, we are recording. I can make this. This
You
is
make that intro?
This is going to be the intro to the show. Coming to you pre-tape from the LA Mission College Studios in Los Angeles, California. This is the Best Coast Show. I'm your host, Albert Aguilera. My producer, Curtis Stage, has abandoned me. Megan's not here. I totally screwed up with Becky. But, you know who came through in the clutch? Michael, tell them who came through in the clutch.
I showed up to save the day. I'm
Michael
like
Duarte.
Mighty Mouse of this
Michael
thing.
Duarte, NBC Sports, here to talk with me about the Dodgers, the Rams, and are we going to miss the playoffs?
There's a chance that the Dodgers are going to miss the playoffs. I know fans don't want to hear that. Now, first of all, there is no this feels so lonely, this seat.
Right.
I want you to get a shot of this seat before it's all said and done, just empty
just
with
like
a
an
mic.
empty seat.
But I was promised Curtis, I was promised Megan, I was promised a former Kings Ice Girl.
Two of them. I was like trying to put, we don't have the budget for this, but I was trying to push for cardboard cutouts of Megan and of Curtis because they're the ones that are always missing.
It'd be tough on the last minute to do that. But I would have absolutely engaged with those two cardboard cutouts.
So
might have been better than the real thing. You never know.
And I think with the 105 episodes we've had so far, I could put together really good, like, generic Curtis answers.
Oh, yeah, those are pretty easy to do.
Yeah, I think I'd be able to do that.
He's the optimist of the Dodgers. He'd be like, we're going to make the playoffs. We're going to sweep the Giants in San Francisco against two left-handers, including Madison Bumgarner and Pudge's son. Did you know that was Pudge's son?
I didn't know it was Pudge's son.
Derek Rodriguez, who will be pitching Saturday's game against Clayton Kershaw, who's been on fire lately, is Pudge Rodriguez's son.
Interesting.
So in a way, if the Dodgers don't make it, we can blame Pudge. Hall of Famer Pudge Rodriguez. We can just throw all of our ire as Dodgers fans at him.
But he never did anything to us.
No, not
but
directly,
his offspring.
But his offspring could. So you got to go to the source, right?
That's true.
You can't just cut off the branch. You got to go through the roots.
Well, I mean, we got San Francisco in San Francisco for 3. Then we have the Colorado Rockies playing the Nationals. It's in D.C.?
No, it is in Colorado. It is at Coors Field.
In Colorado.
The Washington Nationals are eliminated. They have absolutely nothing to play for. They have no relationship prior or otherwise with the Rockies, meaning there is no motivation of the longtime rivals or a hatred or a on-the-field issue spilling over and resentment coming. Not at all.
Right, and then you got the Brewers and the Cardinals, and they still have their final series. We have one game up on the Cardinals. As of this recording, it's like 7-1 in the 8th inning for the Rockies, so we might as well just say they're
5-3 now, but let's just assume the Rockies are going to win that game in the next 15 minutes. We might know that by the middle of this show. But yeah, the Rockies, let's say by the time you guys are watching this, will be a full game up of the Dodgers entering into this weekend series. So for fans who think the Dodgers can come back and win their 6th consecutive division, I think that the odds are against them. Highly, highly against them. I would say more than 60-70% that they do not at this point, which is crazy to me because a week ago when they swept the Rockies and went 2.5 games up, the probability they would win the division was 96%. They literally just couldn't have the Rockies run off 7 games and essentially be running the table down the stretch, which nobody probably saw coming, but you got to take care of business. And what I mean by that is, Walker Buehler started on Tuesday night. In a game that the Dodgers were winning that game. They kept coming back. They had so many chances. They were 3 for 22 with runners on base, and they lose that game, knowing that you have Ross Stripling versus Zach Greinke in a bullpen game the next day, and Stripling has been awful since the All-Star break. So you got to win the games you're supposed to win, which we've been saying all season long. And, there's not as much pressure on the games that you're not expected to win or where the odds are not in your favor. So right now, they've put themselves in a situation where they are going to have to win games they're not probably supposed to win, meaning tomorrow night, Friday night, they're going to have Hyun-Jin Ryu outpitch Madison Bumgarner in a rivalry game, heated environment. They're going to have to win that game. Then it kind of tilts in their favor with Kershaw and Buehler finishing the season. There's still a chance that they make the playoffs,
We
right?
sweep the Giants.
I think that it's actually in their favor, if we're talking percentages, and I'm just throwing numbers out my ass right now, right? But percentage they win the division, I say not in their favor. Less than 30% they win the division. But I would say greater than 50%, maybe 60%, they make the playoffs as that second wild card. As we said, the Cubs don't want to play in a one-game elimination game, whether it's at home or not, to make the playoffs, whether it would be against the Cardinals again or the Dodgers, they don't want to play in that one-game playoff game. So they have incentive to beat the Cardinals. They are their rivals. They have incentive to beat them this weekend. And if they beat them 2 of 3, then the Dodgers just need to win once to at least tie the Cardinals. So if the Dodgers can win 2 of 3, hoping the Cubs can win 2 of 3, then the Dodgers are your second wild card seed in that situation.
Well, according to ESPN's playoff tracker, the first place Colorado Rockies have an 88% chance of making the playoffs. The second place Dodgers, 94%.
94% of making the
Yeah.
playoffs?
So I guess they're assuming.
I don't see how they see those numbers.
I'm assuming that they're like, the Giants are trash and the Cardinals this weekend, but then the Nationals might do something.
The Nationals are expected to start Steven Strasburg on Saturday's game. Again, they have no incentive to do that, and he's been hurt a lot this season. There's absolutely no reason for him to start. We'll see if they scratch him or they go with a young guy to see what they got and someone up from the minors. Same thing with Scherzer on Sunday. Technically, you could go a short rotation, a 4-man rotation, and start Scherzer on normal rest in the finale on Sunday. But again, why?
Fan Appreciation Day?
They're not in Washington.
Oh,
Fan Appreciation Day at Coors Field and a day game. I mean, it makes no sense. He's already surpassed 300 strikeouts. He's already given fans.
But
he's not at 19 wins and he can get 20. He's at 18.
What if Scherzer's like, you know what? I can knock these guys out of the playoff. Give me that ball.
But by then, he's not even going to knock them out. I can knock them out of the NL West division and force them in the wild card. I don't see the incentive for him to pitch. I don't see the incentive for the Nationals front office to have him pitch.
But it could be Sunday where he is, in fact, the pitcher that could make the difference in a scenario where the Dodgers and Rockies are tied.
I wonder if Andrew Friedman and Farhan Zaidi have like an envelope with cash that they could like slip Mike Rizzo.
Accidentally. Oh, sorry. How did that get there?
You gave us Madsen. Here's some cash to pitch Strasburg and Scherzer on Saturday and Sunday. I don't know. I mean, saying that anything that would be helpful right now for the Dodgers' chances of winning the division. Right now, I don't agree with 96% they make the playoffs.
94.
94? I don't agree with that at all. I don't know where that's coming from.
Those are computers and numbers.
But I would say high they can make the playoffs, or at least, I mean, is that a 94% chance they play in a 1-game 163? Technically, that's the postseason.
Yeah,
technically, that's the postseason.
Right.
So there is probably a 90% chance that they are playing an extra game, whether it's to decide the NL West or whether to decide who is the second wild card. Because like I said, if Chicago can win 2 of 3 against St. Louis this weekend, then the Dodgers just need to win 1 game in San Francisco to guarantee they're playing in that extra playoff game.
Right.
So I guess if you're computing numbers, that's a 90% chance they don't get swept, 94% chance. And I don't think they get swept in San Francisco.
Now, what happens if the Rockies, the Dodgers, and the Cardinals end up in a 3-way tie?
Now that is what fans are rooting for, right? We are the agents of chaos.
Just so you have to play a playoff game to get into the playoffs.
So think about this.
Because that happened one year.
If that scenario that you're talking about happens, and like we said, chaos, and we are the agents of chaos, we want to see it, that would mean the Dodgers, you don't want that as a Dodger fan, by the way. You don't want that.
It gives you two chances to make the playoffs.
You don't want that if you're a Dodger fan. Ideally, you want them to win the West and have a matchup with the Braves and let the NL Central teams or let the Rockies have to play the Cubs or Brewers.
You also don't want to throw Kershaw and Buehler in potential back-to-back games that are just wild cards.
Right, and they wouldn't even be able to pitch in that first wild card game. Rich Hill is being saved for a wild card game. So he would be pitching on 9, potentially 10 days rest if there is a game 163 or a wild card matchup. It is Rich Hill. The Dodgers are going for the division by pitching Kershaw and Buehler this weekend and mixing the rotation. It is all going to be hinging on Rich Hill if you want to actually go into a playoff series or a 1-game wild card. So this is the scary thought. 5 games in 5 days in 5 different cities, based on the 3-way tie you just spoke of, which is definitely a possibility.
No, it'd be 3 different cities. Because we're in San Francisco for 3.
San Francisco on Sunday.
Right.
Then on Monday, you'd go to Los Angeles, and you would play the Rockies to decide the NL West division.
Right, you win that game,
Let's say
you're
the
locked
Dodgers win that. That would be a Rich Hill start. Mm-hmm. Then on Tuesday, you would fly to St. Louis to play the Cardinals to decide who would be the second wild card game. Or actually, I take that back.
The Rockies
I take that back. If you lose that game, then you would fly to St. Louis to play the Cardinals.
Why would we have to fly to St. Louis if we have the
The Cardinals have the tiebreaker over the Dodgers. They won 4-3 in the season series, so that game would be hosted by St. Louis. The Rockies would win the division in that case. The Dodgers would have lost that game, and the Dodgers would then play St. Louis in St. Louis to decide who would be the second wild card team. So that is game 3 in 3 days in 3 cities. If you beat St. Louis, you then play in the wild card game
against the Brewers.
Let's say
it's
the Brewers. So then you fly to Milwaukee. They have the better record. That game would be in Milwaukee on the next day, the 4th day, to decide who is then going to play the Cubs in the NLDS. So if you beat them, that is 4th game in 4 cities, then you'd fly to Chicago. That is 5 games, 5 cities.
We don't want to make it
in 5
easy.
days.
We want to make it as dramatic as possible.
To play a best-of-5 series with the Cubs.
As dramatic as possible, so when like Ridley Scott wants to turn this into a movie, he can.
I don't want that, but who would pitch? Think about that. Let's just try to break down the matchup. It'd be fun and experiment.
So you got Kershaw, Buehler,
so,
and then
so Buehler's going to pitch Sunday,
happens,
right? So then you'd have to, let's say that scenario happens, a 3-way tie. So you have Buehler pitching Sunday. So just keep that in your head. Monday's the next game. You have Rich Hill ready to go. Let's say you lose that game, which is what we said. This is how that scenario would work. So then on Tuesday, you would then play the St. Louis Cardinals in St. Louis. If you had Ryu Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that's 4 days. That's not even enough rest. So you would have to probably pitch Ross Stripling, Alex Wood, a bullpen game against St. Louis in St. Louis to decide who would be going to the wild card game against the Brewers.
See,
let's say by some miracle Ross Stripling starts and you win that game somehow, a bullpen game. Then on Wednesday, you'd have to probably start Ryu. If you want to start Kershaw on 3 days rest, you could. I don't see why. I mean, I guess to get into to play the Cubs, but more than likely you don't. So Ryu starts that game on Wednesday, and then if you win that wild card game against the Brewers for some reason, again, none of these matchups are in your favor at all because the other teams can just line up whoever they want. They have the luxury of waiting for you. Then you would get Kershaw starting game 1 of an NLDS against the Cubs. So it's a crazy formula and a crazy strategy just to get there, but that's how it would look. But then if you could get there, then it would line up well. Then you'd have Kershaw, Buehler, 1-2 against the Cubs at Wrigley Field.
That's a whole lot of processing. That's a lot to process.
I would hate to be the traveling secretary to try to plan flights, hotels, trips, family, everybody on board for this potential 5 games in 5 days.
If I'm the travel secretary, I just open up a Facebook group and I send out the invite. Are you coming, yes or no? RSVP. And then that's when I start booking things.
Which city would you prefer to come with us on?
Yeah, right. I'm like, you know what? Listen, Game 3 of the LDS will be in Los Angeles. Just wait till we come back home. The players are going to stay in the hotels. Don't worry about it.
I know you want this, and I'm sure there are some other fans out there who would love to see the Dodgers go through the gauntlet.
Do I want crippling anxiety over the next 5-6 days? Absolutely not.
Do you remember American Gladiators?
Yes.
And do you remember what was the final thing they had to do? Like the final, after you did all the little individual things.
I don't remember. That was years ago.
There was like the gauntlet, like the last thing you had to compete against. And based on how you did in the first hour of the show was the head start you got based on that final thing. And that is the Gladiators shooting tennis balls at you, hitting you with padded things, just doing whatever they can to knock you off this obstacle course that you had to compete in. They're just trying to mess you up. That would be what it would take for the Dodgers at this point to get back to either the NLCS or an NLDS matchup with the Cubs or even the World Series. I don't think that particular team is suited to go through that kind of gauntlet in order to make a run like that. I think they're better suited somehow winning the division, beating the Braves, who they have more experience than, who they know some of those players, they know that front office, they have better pitching matchups, and then being aligned to play either the Cubs or Brewers or whoever would come out of that other NLDS, which likely, in my opinion, if it is NL Central teams, they would beat up on each other. They would absolutely beat up on each other. It would be like a 5-game series probably, and the Dodgers could sit back waiting, somewhat rested, to play them. That's the better path than playing American Gladiators in that final obstacle course to try to get there.
That's fine and dandy, but that's not going to happen. And again, do I need ulcers? Do I want to start just coughing up blood because I'm freaking out over the next few days in regards to this pitcher and that pitcher in this series? And oh my God, it's a wild card for a wild card. Just sweep the Giants. Just sweep the Giants.
But here's the thing, and this is something I'm going to write about later today for a story that'll be up on NBC LA on Thursday night. It is for the first time in this run, and the first time in over a week, this is no longer in the Dodgers' control. I mean, they don't control their own fate. They don't control their own destiny. So for the first time, even sweeping the Giants does not mean anything except you're in the wild card. Does not mean you win the division. Does not mean that you necessarily avoid, a final playoff game with the Rockies or something in a 163. It just means that you will make the postseason if you sweep. That is the only thing that's in their control. Like I said, you want them and they want to win the division. That's why they stacked the rotation like this and put more emphasis on these final 2 games in San Francisco than they did on a potential 163 or playoff game,
right,
and having their best pitchers available for that. It is out of your control to be able to play the Braves and do that. 2 days ago, when they went into Arizona, they had their own destiny. You win, you beat the team you're supposed to beat, you win the pitching matchup you're supposed to win, and you will win your 6th straight NL West title, and you will be playing the Braves in the first round. They didn't do that. Now it's out of their control.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
So depressing.
Yeah. And the Giants, they skipped a Madison Bumgarner start so he could pitch Friday night.
I saw that.
And knock out the Dodgers. And they are pitching a young, unexperienced lefty in Suarez, a guy who doesn't have that experience, just because they know the Dodgers can't hit lefties very well.
So this is what I'm thinking. So on Friday night, because Madison Bumgarner is going to be pitching against the Dodgers, and he is like a shining moment type of pitcher, but he's also a hothead and a total scumbag. I go out there and I just annoy the fuck out of him. I instigate whatever I can. I say, Puig, you go out there.
Yes, Puig is the one you selected to do this job.
You shake your ass, you lick your bat, you swag around the tongue, and if you hit a foul ball, bat flip.
I would say there's 3 players that you have this conversation privately with that you're speaking of, right?
Yasiel
Puig, Kike Hernandez, and Justin Turner.
You really? Guys, Justin Turner?
Justin Turner has good success against Bumgarner. These 3 guys.
But not in a trolling fashion, though.
Not in the trolling fashion, but I think in addition to just him disliking Puig, and maybe you played the race issue there, it is more like him getting beat as well. Like Kike doesn't troll him, but Kike's kind of a flamboyant, fun, put all the attention, all eyes on me kind of guy, and he's taken Bumgarner deep a couple times. He's had success. So has Justin Turner. So if you take one guy that just irks him in Puig, licking his bat flipping and stuff, and then you take 2 guys that have success against him.
Doing the same stuff?
Doing the same stuff. Oh, that's going to put him over. I think it's going to put him over.
Now, I would be like, okay, Chase, here's what we need you to do. Because you're the consummate professional, we need you to not be the consummate professional. Okay. We need you to go up there and be Yasiel Puig so that he can get even more mad and be like, dude, you're supposed to be like one of us. Like, you've been here for so long, and integrity, and and now you're acting like a jackass.
I like this.
That would be, because he would be totally thrown off by that.
I like this. Like, put Chase in as a pinch hitter, let him just stand in front of a fastball from Bumgarner or something, take it for the team, dance off first base or something, neener. I got that. I like that.
Yeah, that would completely come out of nowhere.
Did you see, I have a story up on it on NBC as well, but did you see, the game's almost over, by the way, in Colorado. Anyways, did you see that Jen Utley, a guest who's been in this exact seat probably that I'm sitting in, right, posted a picture on Instagram to the Phillies asking them to help her husband and a former Philly and a home of theirs in Philadelphia to help them get Chase back to the postseason in his final year by beating the Rockies, which they are not doing right now.
Terrible.
They're definitely not listening to her post. To do that, to help them get back to the playoffs. Did you see that she did that?
I did not see that. But I got to go look for it, and the city of Philadelphia is going to let them down.
Absolutely, they're letting them down. Gabe Kapler, a finalist for the Dodgers manager 3 years ago, is also letting them down.
I'm sure he's doing it on purpose. He's like, guys, we're out of it. Just roll over.
I was supposed to have that job.
Exactly.
I was supposed to be that guy.
Like, listen, I should be tanning my nuts in Los Angeles, not here in Philly.
Not here in Philly,
you
exactly.
Can't tan in Philly.
I can't rub coconut oil on my body here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think that's partial to it. I don't like it. But at the same time, if I'm in his situation, I don't tank on purpose, but I'm like, we're out of it. There's no reason to throw out my $100 million pitcher. There's no reason to throw out anyone that can potentially get hurt and need surgery in the offseason.
You're talking about the Nationals?
No, I'm talking about the Phillies.
Well, I think they...
And even the Nationals. They
started Jake Arrieta today. That's their $100 million pitcher. They at least gave him a shot to beat him, I guess.
With the Nationals coming up, with Scherzer, like if it's a position where, okay, you're completely out of it, but Scherzer could still win this or that individual or like a Cy Young, right? It's like, oh, he's trying to get to 20 wins or he needs to get X amount of strikeouts.
And he'll be in the conversation, but DeGrom isn't throwing again. And that's the guy you're going up against, and he's won. So unless you think there is something you can do in a final game against Colorado on a Sunday day game that's somehow going to catapult you past DeGrom, it's not going to happen. And like I said, you already have 300 strikeouts. That's already an emphatic stamp on your
27 strikeouts.
You only have
gets the Cy Young.
If you can do that. If you can throw a no-hitter or a perfect game in Colorado Coors Field, which isn't going to happen either.
Hideo Nomo did it.
Yeah, Hideo Nomo is the only person who has done it. So you want him to go out there and start, and as soon as he gets a hit, just yank him? Just be like, all right, you're done.
Yeah.
No Cy Young for you. Look, like I said, if this was in Nationals Park and this was his final game for the home crowd,
pitch him.
I could see pitching him. If he had 299 strikeouts and he needed one more, I could see pitching him. If he had 19 wins and he needed one more to get to 20,
bonus incentives?
Pitching him. I don't know,
like,
but I'm assuming
did you see Sabathia got kicked out of today's game?
I
2
saw
innings
that.
shy
But I'm
of getting a $500,000 bonus.
I'm assuming he hasn't been hurt this year as he has in years previous. I'm assuming if there were bonuses, incentive, and laden in that contract, he's hit them all. So, unfortunately, Dodger fans don't want to hear this, but if I'm the Nationals, I don't pitch Strasburg, I don't pitch Scherzer, I don't see the point.
And I don't play Bryce Harper because he's going to leave us anyways. Or maybe I do play him so that he's damaged goods.
We're putting our hope in a guy who could be wearing a Dodger uniform next season.
Yeah.
That's what we're putting our hope in. To hit a grand slam, go 5 for 5 with 10 RBIs, and beat the Rockies for us. Now that is someone you could put your faith in. I think Bryce Harper is going to finish those final 3 games. I don't think he's going to sit on his last game of possibly in a
he's a position player, and he again wants to pad his stats as much as he can.
Yeah.
People already know what they're getting out of him, but he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's not going to go out and compete.
It's his final edition in an offensive park at Coors Field that's open, that he can pad some of those stats.
Yeah, he's going to have 12, 13 at-bats.
To audition for free agent teams out there to say, hey, back up the truck and back up the Brinks truck and unload it and pay me my money. Especially the Dodgers, here's what I can do in Coors Field. So I would say you're much better putting your faith and hope in the Dodgers winning the division on Bryce Harper beating the Rockies than necessarily Strasburg and Scherzer pitching and beating the Rockies.
He's going to be a one-man wrecking crew.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. One thing that we haven't discussed, and I think it's something we should chat about, let's say the Dodgers do make it, whether it's in a one-game wild card against the Brewers or whether it is in a first-round playoff with the Braves. Do we think this team is built and able, with the inconsistency they've shown throughout the year, to get back to a World Series? That is something that I've seen talked about and discussed a lot online and on social media.
I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say it because what's going to happen is that we're just going to go out there and rake. We're just going to hit like 50 bombs in a series and just start just destroying teams in that matter. We'll win shootouts, like Big 12 college football shootouts. We'll win like 11-9.
One game, and then you'll not show up and go 1 for 50 with runners in scoring position in the next game. That's just kind of been the MO of this team this year. Now, last year you had a very famous motto, a hashtag, sweep the playoffs, which I liked. And they almost did it, too. They almost did it, except in the World Series.
Right.
But the NLDS and NLCS, basically one blip, by Alex Wood in Chicago was all it took from them going 7-0 and sweeping the first 2 rounds. So we know they're capable of doing that if they get in. To me, it is much more in their favor if they lined up with the Braves that they would have the ability to do that. Somehow, if they could win the West again, you could beat the Braves in 3 games, like you said. You're going against rookie pitchers who've never pitched in the postseason before. You have the luxury of experience and, in my opinion, a more talented offensive lineup and the ability to put Kershaw and Buehler in 1-2 in that series with the luxury of rest to beat them. I think if they can get that somehow that NL West crown, even if it means playing a game 163 at home in LA to decide who gets it, if you can get it, then you have a chance to go deep in the playoffs. Because as I mentioned to you, if you probably beat the Braves, you're probably favored in that matchup. And then let's say the Brewers play the Cubs in the other NLDS. Those are 2 teams who know each other intimately. They're going to beat up on each other. you're going to expend in a Game 5 multiple pitchers or something in that series. So it's similar to last season, in which the Dodgers would be sitting there waiting for the winner of that series. Let's say it's the Cubs again in a third straight NLCS, with the luxury of lining up Kershaw, Buehler, and going at them and having kind of the rest and the ability to reset your rotation in your favor. If you win the wild card and you pitch Rich Hill against the Brewers, and let's say you beat them, and then you do kind of get to line up that rotation against the Cubs. That's a 5-game series starting at Wrigley Field for the NLDS. It's a little harder, though. I feel like if you could win that, then whoever would come out of the Rockies and Braves in an NLCS would be in your favor. So you just got to somehow survive and win that 5-game series.
So we have to sweep the Giants.
Have to sweep the Giants.
We have to sweep the Giants.
New hashtag,
Sweep the
SF.
Giants.
Sweep the Giants.
Terrible. But you know what's not terrible?
And we got to call Pudge Rodriguez. We should call him right now
should we start
to help
trolling
us
him?
with that.
Is he on Twitter?
I don't know. He's probably on Twitter. Just start asking him, like, hey, could you tell your son to groove a couple pitches in there? Manny Machado comes up with runners on base. Just throw an 89-mile-per-hour fastball right over the heart of the plate.
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't think he would, though.
What does he have to lose? Well, Derek Jeter can make him part of the Marlins ownership organization or something. We'll honor him. We'll have the Tigers do something for him. We'll make it happen. Kirk Gibson's in that organization now, right?
Oh, he is.
We can make it happen, Pudge. Pudge, if you're watching, call your son right now. Season's pretty much over. This is his last start. Help out the Dodgers, right?
This is one of those things like it's the Alumni Association where it's like, hey, we have alumni in Detroit. You played in Detroit.
Pudge, I know people who voted for you in the Hall of Fame. You owe us.
Did you vote for him in the Hall of Fame?
As media members, you owe us. I wasn't a voting member when Pudge got in, but you owe us vote.
But would you have voted for him when he got in?
Yeah, I would have.
There you go.
I would have. So on that confidence, that vote of confidence by me alone, you should tell your son to groove some pitches.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, guys, now we're going to move on to another LA team that is not struggling, that is actually favored to win everything
the
at
Angels.
the moment.
No.
No, they're in Anaheim, Michael. We've had this discussion before.
I know, I'm messing with you. I feel bad for them. Tommy John surgery for Ohtani in like 3 days. Like on Monday, he'll be,
Listen,
opened up.
That's why, we've discussed it a million times before. I'm very anti-Japanese superstar pitcher coming to my team because they train differently. They have different schedules, different lengths of games and seasons, and just the time zones and the traveling. None of that exists in Japan. And then
The Dodgers kind of dodged a bullet there, right?
yeah, but he's still hitting for them.
But where would he wouldn't be DH for the Dodgers. He'd be like in right field or left field.
Right.
So you wouldn't be able to play Kemp or Puig. You'd probably have to move or trade one of those guys. And then his pitching career wouldn't have gone as you had planned this year. So that would have put you, behind the 8 ball. Not saying he's not a great pitcher and we would love to have him for the games he had started. Maybe you win those games and you're not in this situation. But looking at the long term, you wouldn't have him pitching next year either. So you'd be investing in this guy. And it wouldn't really work out. I think he made the right decision, unfortunately, going to the Angels.
Yeah, we weren't going to alter our rotation to go 6-man. We don't have a DH, but
I digress. You're talking about an undefeated
they're not
LA team.
Anaheim is in Orange County, not Los Angeles. I'm talking about the Los Angeles undefeated team, the Los Angeles Rams. #Ram it.
#Mob Squad.
No, Ram it.
Ram it. But that was like the old video, right? Like, it was
Yeah.
like the 80s, 90s team, or maybe it's the late 70s.
I like retro
don't
stuff.
know. Okay, I like retro stuff too. It's coming back. Yeah, the Los Angeles Rams, 3-0, undefeated.
The Super Bowl favorite, Los Angeles Rams.
Who was your prediction to play in the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, I had it Rams Chiefs.
I like that. I actually like that. Most media members here in Los Angeles I've spoken to have Rams Chargers, and that is the most homerific.
What? That is
homerific pick that I've ever seen in my life.
Send me a DM with who these people are, and I'll call them out because you're a media member.
No, I've called them out.
They might
I've
shun
called
you,
them
and
out.
you won't
No,
be able to
I
sit
have
with them
no
at
problem
lunch.
being shunned by my peers.
Like we were pink on Fridays, so
I probably look pink on the viewing of this.
no,
YouTube
that's
for fans
terrible.
watching right
That's
now.
terrible because in no way, shape, or form have I even considered the Chargers to win their division, much less win the AFC.
But you had Chiefs before the season began?
Yeah.
Really? You had that much confidence in Mahomes without seeing him play like a regular season
No, because
game?
I know what Andy Reid can do with a mobile quarterback, with a quarterback that can throw the ball.
But you also know what he can do in the playoffs.
That's also true. But that doesn't mean that he's going to win the Super Bowl. I'm just saying that's where they're going to meet, and that's where McVay and his think tank and Goff are going to throw for 600 yards, and Gurley's going to have 400 all-purpose yards and break every Super Bowl record that the Greatest Show on Turf put together, and then win the Super Bowl so that Andy Reid could lose in the playoffs.
To me, this team is more exciting than the Greatest Show on Turf. And the reason I say that is because those teams with Mike Martz as the coach and offensive coordinator, with Vermeil was the coach for one of those teams, with Martz as the coordinator before he became the head coach. They had an amazing offensive attack. Amazing. But you don't remember the stars on defense of those teams. You don't remember the special team stars of those teams. This team is, in all three facets of the game, offense, defense, and special teams, the greatest show of their respective field.
On grass?
On grass, in Coliseum grass. So you have the Rams' offense, which, in my opinion, has more weapons on the offensive line, more weapons at the receiver position necessarily than the Greatest Show on Turf. You have the defense, which, like a couple guys are hurt right now, but that is like an all-pro defensive team if you look at it at multiple positions, including in the defensive line when you have Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald on the same line.
We should have had Khalil Mack.
And then you have the greatest punter in the NFL right now, and Johnny Hecker, who can also kick field goals, who can also play quarterback.
And he has a podcast.
Yeah, and then you have, an all-pro long snapper. You have, when Greg Zuerlein is healthy, an unbelievable kicker, and Greg the Leg and Legatron. And you have, if you look at guys like Corey Littleton and Blake Countess, who was just named Special Teams Player of the Week, guys that can go after, block punts, and do all this as well. So on all three facets of the game, they're, to me, a more complete team than the Greatest Show on Turf team.
Yeah, and I agree. So having the offense, the defense, special teams, this is a team that is special, that could make the Super Bowl. But who were your Super Bowl predictions preseason?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So preseason.
Not now that you've already seen 3 games.
After seeing 3 games, I'm going to stick to mine because I trust my gut. But after 3 games, I would have gone with your pick. I really like the way the Chiefs are playing, and I really like the way the Rams are playing now. That's not reinventing the wheel. That's not going out on a limb. That's picking the 2 teams who are still undefeated and offensively at least look to be the best teams in the league. But I had before the season Patriots and the Rams in the Super Bowl this year, and I refuse to select a winner until I've been able to watch the whole season. And the reason why I said that was because 4 weeks ago, the Patriots didn't have Josh Gordon, so you don't know what kind of moves they do or how they look. So I'll leave that part open, but the Patriots are a team that, they always kind of start slow and then pick it up midway and then end up doing it through the playoffs. So do you feel confident that if there was a AFC championship game in Foxborough, in the snow, between the Chiefs and Brady, that it would be the Chiefs coming out and winning that game, especially the way the Chiefs' defense has been?
No. And that's one reason why I don't believe the Chiefs are as great as people make them seem to be. Where going into week 3, everyone's like, or after week 3, everyone's like, oh, look at the Chiefs. Yeah, they've scored 80 points, but they've given up 70. Mm-hmm. And the Rams on the opposite end, it's like, oh, we've scored 80 points as well, but guess what? We've only given up 20.
Exactly, and they put up a donut in one of those games.
Yeah, so like you were saying earlier, they're more of a complete team. And it's like, okay, you have Tom Brady and the Patriots who have Belichick on the offensive side of the ball, and they're going to move what they do and whatever. And then you have the Chiefs, who are an Andy Reid-style team that's going to throw the ball a lot, and they're going to put up points. But you don't have any other team in the league that I've seen so far that you're like, crap, defense wins championships, and they have a defense. Oh, man, they're going to just outscore people. That's why they win.
Well, that was the argument made last year with the Eagles, right? Oh, the offense is great, but that defense. When they played the Rams and Eagles, that was a shootout, if you remember.
Yeah. That was like 45-38 or something when Wentz went down.
And that was that game, that NFC Championship game, Vikings and Eagles. With the Vikings were the ones who were supposed to have the better defense. The Eagles' defense held them to, I think, 7 points. They completely just destroyed them. And while that defense wasn't as great against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, neither was the Patriots' defense, who let the Eagles put all that points with a backup quarterback, I might add. So I tend to agree with you that the Chiefs' defense is what worries me, and I also think that if this was a playoff game with a week to prepare in Foxborough, Bill Belichick, in the snow, Bill Belichick would be licking his chops at having to plan for Patrick Mahomes. Whether he's a mobile quarterback or not, I think he likes, young, inexperienced quarterbacks that he has a chance to plan and scheme for, especially with given enough time, than a veteran like Brady who he knows what he's going to do against a defense that might be more poor. As far as the Rams are concerned, I think honestly right now the only thing that can stop them is injuries, is themselves. You have Aqib Talib out 8 weeks on IR. You already have an all-pro return man in Pharoh Cooper on IR. You have Greg Zuerlein out for over a month with a groin injury. You have Marcus Peters out with a calf injury. And then you have the usual Mark Barron, always questionable, some offensive linemen questionable, but that's what I think could derail the Rams. Now, they got lucky, knock on wood, last year when they weren't as deep of a team to have no injuries, no severe or serious injuries. This year, already through 3 weeks, they have, half a dozen. So that's what worries me. If they can stay healthy or get healthy at the right time, they would be the team to beat, in my opinion, the NFC. So that's going to be interesting to see. Now, what did you think of this letter that Sean McVay sent out for the Thursday night football game against the Vikings, which at this point has been played? We'll assume hopefully the Rams win. But
well, yeah, that's about 3 hours from now.
Sean McVay sent out a letter to everyone in Los Angeles telling them this is your note to get out of work early or class early, whatever it may be, in order to get to the Coliseum by 5 o'clock to root on the
why
Rams.
Curtis isn't here.
Probably.
He was like, oh, I can't be on the show because I got to drive out to Long Beach. He's going to the game.
I will be at that game.
And he didn't invite me.
At this point happened last night. So I will be at that game. I will find Curtis for you and take a photo and send it to you so you can bust him.
He never
on that.
invites me to anything.
I believe it.
Ever.
I bet you he's in the crowd rocking a Rams hat.
Probably.
That he probably got for free. I believe it. So, but I like the idea. This is a traffic town, right? This is a traffic city. You need to get out early. You need to plan 2 hours to get to the Coliseums. You probably spend an hour just on MLK Boulevard alone trying to get into the Coliseum. So I like, Sean McVay, if you're watching, I like you sending out a doctor's note. I didn't think your signature was too great. You might want to work on your penmanship, your calligraphy a little bit.
As long as he can do X's and O's, that's all I care about.
That's true. That's all I care about too. But this was a fun little doctor's note, coach's note to get out of work early. I like it in LA. I think people like things like that. So I think hopefully some employers would allow
Where did he put it out?
Season ticket holders to get out. Everywhere. The Rams sent it out. I got an email with it, but it was sent out on social media, on Twitter. Here's a note to give to.
I put out an ad on the paper. That way you have a physical piece of paper you rip out. And
they
you
should do that.
And then your boss looks at you and goes, bro, are you kidding me? No, get back to work.
Now, the best part about that for people who didn't see the letter is Coach McVay in the letter itself says, the game starts at 5:20, which is actually Coach Wade Phillips, defensive coordinator's bedtime. So, please come out. And then Wade Phillips responded on Twitter and said, hey, I do not go to sleep before 6 p.m. So
I didn't even know Wade Phillips was on Twitter.
He gave a little jab at that. He is on Twitter. He's pretty funny. I would recommend following him. Yeah.
Okay.
After the shutout.
Is that kind of weird, though? Like, your head coach is a third your age.
The head coach of the Rams is younger than me. It's very frustrating.
Wait. I don't know how old he is. He's 33, right?
32.
32? Okay, he's older than me.
He's older than you?
He's older than me.
Well, he's younger than me, so it is frustrating. And he's like more than half of the age of Wade Phillips. So that's some good-natured ribbing. Wade Phillips recently, after that shutout against the Cardinals, 34-0, said that his favorite food was donuts. I thought that was a good little tweet out there after that shutout as well.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. I have to follow him. I didn't realize that he would be on the Twitter. I don't know too many senior citizens that are on the Twitter.
Neither do I, but he's one of them.
Because he is a senior citizen.
Actually, we do know the president is a senior citizen on Twitter.
Well, he's on the Twitter,
He basically runs Twitter at this point.
Yeah,
so.
He's on the Twitter.
Yeah. What did you think about, let me ask you like another follow-up Rams question. What did you think about the fact that this team started 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 when the rest of the division in the NFC West is losing? Do you think at any point this year the Rams will not be in first place in that division?
No, and it's because the division is trash. The Seahawks are not anywhere near as good as what they used to be. The 49ers are garbage. And
we just lost Jimmy Garoppolo for the season. So.
And then you have the Cardinals that are like 50 years old.
They're
a
mess.
Everyone on that team's ancient.
Except for their new quarterback, Josh Rosen now. Yeah.
Is he starting?
They just gave him the starting job.
Okay, so he's starting now. Okay.
So, yeah, I tend to agree with you. I put that out after week 1. I said, what is the over-under that the Rams never relinquish first place after starting 1-0 and the other 3 teams were 0-1? And people were like, it'll never happen. And so far, so good. 3-0, and the other teams now They're getting season-ending injuries. They're falling off. I think.
But it's like you said, just knock on wood, stay healthy.
Stay healthy, and you're going to roll through the division. You're going to win the division. You're going to probably get a bye if you can win enough games, and then it's just getting ready for the playoffs.
Now, over/under, like we've talked about on the show last week, Vegas said it's a 9.5 for the Rams, and the highest over/under was 10.5 for the Patriots. Would you take the over or under for Rams 9.5?
I would take the over on both.
I took the over
for
as well.
Sure on both.
Because
Patriots doesn't look as good right now, but I still take both. I think Patriots 11-5 is fair. I think Rams 12-4 this season is fair.
Yeah, I like 12,
maybe even higher.
I like 12-13 wins on their schedule because the NFC West is terrible. So you're just like, okay, I get it. You could have a trap game. They're division rivals, so things happen. But you're looking at like, hey, dude, we could sweep these 6 games, no problem.
Exactly what I'm
saying. And we already beat the Raiders, so like, okay, that's 7 wins right there. We got the Vikings tonight, and the Vikings are 1-1-1. We have 2 ties.
Yeah.
2 ties in back-to-back weeks, which is really bizarre. I don't understand why ties exist.
I mean, looking on the schedule, maybe they thought the Rams lose this game to the Vikings, but you're getting them on short rest at home after a terrible game that they played. So who knows where their confidence is at. Everson Griffin, their all-pro defensive end, is hurt. He's injured. So if you can get past this game and start 4-0, like you said, they already played 1, so you have 5 games against weak NFC West opponents that if you can win even 4 of those 5, you're 8-1. You already have 8 wins on the season. Then you just got to find a couple more, which I think they're going to do.
Nice. Guys, that's going to lead us to our gift of the day. This is a little girl that was cheering in Houston, and it happened in Houston of all places, where she is a Houston Astros fan, and a woman in front of her who was also a Houston Astros fan gets upset, turns around and yells at her for cheering. Michael, would you ever yell at a child that was rocking the same gear as you for cheering?
Absolutely. We're sitting here at LA Mission College filming this show, and there were kids running around outside of the set talking, and I yelled at them enough. Because we're shooting a show here. Don't go yelling and cheering and screaming outside of the studio and the set.
You're like, get off my lawn.
Now, I'm not the get off my lawn guy. I will say this. Some children...
Are you the guy that talk shit to all the high school kids when you're at a fast food restaurant and they use the water cups for soda?
No, because
you kids, you're ruining it for everybody else.
I use the water cup for soda at Chipotle as well.
Even as an adult?
Even as an adult. So, I mean, I can't blame them for that. But, no, and I'm not the get off my lawn guy, but I will say this. Not all kids, but some kids can be extremely annoying. I guess it depends on the parents, the upbringing, the raising, their own personalities, whatever. They can be extremely annoying. I have been at sporting events where kids next to me are jumping around, they're screaming. Look, have you ever been on a flight?
This girl was
cheering. You ever been on a flight?
Different. On a flight, there's no escape. And we're this close to each other.
There's not that much
on a flight,
escape at a stadium if you're in the middle, right, of the middle of the aisle. But my thing is this. There is a video of this, and you've shown it at this point, I assume, on the show.
GIF.
A GIF. Well, that means there's no audio then.
We can subtitle it.
Okay. We don't know what the girl was cheering before the other fan, this other woman, yells enough.
She was cheering for the Astros, who saw the post and have now invited her to the playoffs.
Was she screaming at the top of her lungs?
You're a fan, you should be.
Was she, I don't know how she was cheering or what she was cheering. Maybe, who were they playing?
I don't know who they were playing.
The Mariners?
I have no clue.
Maybe she was cheering maybe she was screaming obscenities
I doubt that.
Against like Robinson Cano, calling him a cheater and a steroid user. And maybe the woman
really
in front personally knows Robinson Cano, and she was like, enough, he made a mistake, he owned it, he served his sentence,
highly unlikely,
and he's back on the field.
Plausible, but highly unlikely.
The other thing is this, it has now come out that the little girl who was cheering in question has a learning disability or some sort of disability. And I don't think also the random fan who was sitting 1 or 2 rows in front of her knew that either. So I got to give the woman who yelled enough, and she didn't yell, shut the fuck up or something. She yelled enough.
Benefit of the doubt.
I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt because I don't know enough evidence. But I'm glad.
This very much looks like those adults that like take foul balls and rip them out of kids' hands.
Yeah, that could be. Like, that would have been better. Like, I wish the foul ball was hit to this little girl and the other woman ripped it out of her hand after she felt like she was cheering too loudly or annoyingly or obnoxiously throughout. But I will say, the video itself is kind of sad. We don't know what she was saying ahead of time, But the woman yells enough, and the girl kind of gets quiet and sad, and her sister or friend or someone off camera says, keep cheering, and the little girl says, I don't want to anymore. That made it sad. So the fact that the Astros are giving her playoff tickets and are probably going to put her like behind home plate where she can cheer and yell as loud as she wants.
And she's going to be like the story throughout the playoffs?
I think that's great.
Michael, it's 2018. It's internet mob mentality. You seem to have forgotten that.
No, I
you
know.
are guilty, and even after you're proven innocent, okay?
Yeah.
Twitter will come after you.
You're always guilty.
Twitter will come after you.
You're guilty for life.
It's true.
Trust me, I know it. I still can't go to Pittsburgh for this day because of that.
It's true.
Yeah, they hate me.
That's no PNC Park for you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Once again, I want to thank LA Sports Nation for having us on the network. If you want to check out the behind the scenes, follow us on the Instagram at Best Coast Show. You can check us on Twitter also at Best Coast Show. You can check out the podcast on SoundCloud.
SoundCloud works. YouTube, iTunes.
I can't believe you're
at
banned
Best
from
Coast
PNC.
Show.
You're banned from PNC Park.
I'm banned from the entire city at this point, not just the park. Okay.
I'm sorry,
Like, I
but
arrive at the airport for a layover.
You can
and
follow us
they
on
got-
SoundCloud,
they got-
Stitcher, iTunes, anywhere podcasts are heard. Guys, Los Angeles Michael's a great guy. He came in today. Don't ban him from your restaurants. If anything, give him free food.
Yeah,
But that's
thank
been
you.
our show, and you guys have a good night.